Hello and welcome to episode 1407 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, April 25th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Congratulations on 20 years of sobriety.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is quite a bit.
It is. It's a lot of bit.
How does it feel?
It's a little surreal. I talk fairly publicly about my sobriety, but I don't really talk about it all the time.
I feel like we talk about the anniversary.
Yeah.
It kind of comes up, and I see it on your sign there. That's why I brought it up. But does each year feel like a thing? Like, do you feel it each year? Is a milestone a big deal? Where are you at with it?
I feel like a milestone like this is a big deal. I remember being in rehab or just out of rehab in 2005. No, actually 2003. When I didn't stay sober after that, and going to an NA meeting in Portland, Oregon, and a guy standing up and getting a 50-year chip, and really realizing the gravity of that, and realizing how young I was, that like, oh, that's possible for me.
Right. You could absolutely get a 50-year.
Yeah. And so to hit 20 is pretty amazing. And because I didn't really think long-term sobriety was possible when I first got
at that
sober.
moment, right?
Yeah.
Because it's such a hill, I can only imagine.
So, but it's been, it's been a amazing and frustrating 20 years. But I've made it this far. Hopefully make it at least another 20 and kind of go from there. But it is one of those things that I'm really grateful for all the people in my life that have supported me through it, and I'm really proud to kind of get to today, and I'm gonna celebrate it.
Good, congratulations. You should, and you should be proud. I love you, brother, and I'm glad that you've been through this journey here. And again, I cannot even imagine the huge hill to climb, but it can be done for anybody who's struggling with that. From that serious tone, we're going to jump into some pitching. It's a 2-start episode, of course. We like to go down the 2-start board, push off the aces to the side. As I say every week, I usually name some ace. I say, you don't need us to tell you that Garrett Crochet is a start. I know things didn't go well yesterday, but we're not changing any opinions. His ERA went all the way up to 195. What a loser. But, I usually have a couple guys on there that are, you wouldn't think have a question, but for some reason or another in the recent starts, things haven't gone as well. And I want to check in with Justin to see where he's at. And there's definitely a candidate for that coming up here about a quarter of the way down the board. But let's start in Arizona. Eduardo Rodriguez has had kind of an interesting season so far. There's been certainly some positive aspects to it. The strikeouts have been nice. It was funny because when he faced Miami, coming into that start, he had this really big strikeout rate, and there wasn't a lot of believability to it. A lot of it was probably built off the 12 strikeouts at Washington. When you only have 3 starts, if you have 12 in one of them, it can really boost your rate. But there's no improved swinging strike rate. But even in my write-up, I was like, he can still get a bunch of strikeouts against Miami. And he did. He got 9 in a weird game where he gave up 10 hits, but only 3 runs, one of them earned. So a solid outing there. Then he faced Tampa Bay, and they got to him a little bit at home, but he did still go 6 2/3, 4 runs, 5 Ks. So add it all up, and Erod's been kind of Erod. 4.40 ERA, 129 WHIP. The Ks are still high, but overly so. I don't really believe in them. He's now looking at a double dip in the NL East. He has to go to the Mets and to Philly. Are we getting anywhere with Eduardo Rodriguez right now? Does he have 15 or 12 team start next week for you?
I think it's a 15-team start for sure. I mean, you look at. I mean, unless you have just an absolutely loaded roster with a bunch of 2 starts this week, right. I don't know how you're not starting him in 15. Just with how difficult everything is in a 15-team league right now. So,
and that's a big part of this too that we like to mention is like sometimes like. What do you got that's better, Mr. Fancy Pants? It's hard to have depth of pitching in a 15. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, one of the places I have Eduardo Rodriguez, I look at my roster and I go, yeah, I'm still starting him. He's still easily one of my, even though my team is or at least my pitching is like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm still going, yeah, I'm starting him over Nick Martinez. I'm starting him over.
Whoa, that's your guy too.
Yeah.
Nick Martinez has a two-step. We're going to get to that.
I
But
know.
that's a little bit surprising because he's one of your dudes.
Yeah, but I think both of Martinez's are at home.
They are. And so I got to be honest, I don't disagree with you. I'm just surprised because you are
I'm a big Erod guy too. I got a lot of Erod this year. I've been a big fan. I like what he's been doing this year. You mentioned 27% strikeout rate. I do agree that is likely coming down, but he's also been unlucky in terms of the ERA. He's got a 4.40 ERA. He's got a 2.86 xERA. His strand rate is just 61%, and he's a 74% guy for his career. He is putting up pretty much the best walk rate of his career right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's gonna get. I think he's gonna be good. You know, he's not gonna be like elite Erod that we saw earlier on in his career, but I think he's going to be super, super solid all year around.
I do too.
Where I think you're putting him in your lineup every week. He's got a great offense to support him, a great defense to support him. I really like Erod.
Me too. I think he's just a bankable guy that is really nice in a 15, very startable in a 12. And maybe we'll have occasional weeks where you want him in a 10-teamer. I don't think this is one of those weeks with the double dip at the NL East, but I do think 12s and 15s are definitely interested in Erod this week. Let's go to the Athletics. They've got a pair going, and it's JP Sears and JT Ginn, and they're going to Texas and Miami. Obviously, anytime you got Miami on the docket, you're excited. Is the at Texas scaring you off, either of them? Let's start with JP Sears. Where are you at with what he's been doing so far this year?
He's trying to suck me in.
I'm luring you in with JP Sears and his Miami start.
Well, and his 3.21 ERA so far.
Some nice numbers.
Who would have thought that like the way for him to lower his strikeout rate was to move to a minor league park?
Right. Although, in fairness, only 2 of his 5 starts there.
Yeah,
the 3 on the road.
I was just about to say, and he's still giving up home runs. He just faced Texas, handled them okay. I always worry about like, the first time around against the team, you do good, and they see you again, and it's like they cave your head in. But I think with Miami on the docket and both of these starts not being in Sacramento, I think you got to roll with them.
I think so too. I like Sears here. What about Ginn then? Let's bring him in. Ginn was a pretty popular free agent pickup a couple weeks ago in the main event. You know, the surface numbers certainly aren't there. Actually, neither are the underlying numbers. Did he get crushed recently? Oh, I guess his Texas start did not go so well.
The X numbers are good because it normalizes the home run rate down from a 2.63 home run. So
Ginn's a good bit tougher. Can you get there with Ginn?
I think in a 15, if you're not starting him with Miami on the docket, like, why is he on your team?
Easy cut at that point. Yep.
Yeah, like, I think you have to cut him. I don't mind it necessarily, like, taking the gamble against Texas, but I feel like Texas is one of those teams that can kind of cave you.
They can bite you. Like, they have not been great. This has been a good time to get them early on. But if you don't think that I have some fear pretty much anytime I'm running a non-ace against Texas, you're crazy. Of course I do. So there is some risk here, but I do think I can get there with both Sears and Ginn in 15s. I think I like Sears a good bit more in 12s, but I wouldn't necessarily throw out Ginn as a consideration for 12s. I think it's at least on the table because that at Miami is so enticing. Now, I don't want to make this my Robert Suarez thing, which is from last year when I never stopped bringing him up. Let's be careful. Like, I hope we don't get caught up with the Miami second start that gets taken off, because I'm still sore about that Grant Holmes one, and I'm going to whine about that for a little bit longer. Maybe not all year, but I'm going to whine about that for a little bit longer. That would be the ultimate problem here, is if Ginn got the at Texas, it didn't go well, and then something went awry with the Miami start, and not even necessarily a rainout, because it could be a situation, because they have a roof. It could be a situation where he gets moved or something.
Yeah.
It is always tough when the better start is the second one for somebody, because
Especially
you
if it
worry that
falls,
something can happen.
especially when it falls on a Sunday. When it falls on a
Right.
Saturday, you're not as worried that,
Right.
because they would need to lose 2 games or have 2 things change in the rotation. When it happens on a Sunday, and that second Sunday start is Miami or the White Sox or a team like that, it's a little scary because you could just get absolutely crushed, and then all of a sudden they move it to the next week, and you're like, oh, okay, I just got to eat that one.
Yes.
Didn't even get the goodness. So
eat the at Texas for Ginn, and then don't even get the at Miami. So that could be scary there. But
I will say,
definitely on the table.
Texas is the 25th best team in baseball in WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year. So
you're catching them at the right time. But like we said, they can bite you. Just understand that, like, take a look at the numbers. I think a lot of pitchers are more playable against Texas than you would have thought. And Seager's out right now. And I don't know if it's going to be a long-term situation, but he did leave a game earlier this week. He didn't go on the IL yet, did he? I don't think.
No, he did. He did go on the IL.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I see that now. So the hamstring strain. So you're without Seager, so that certainly helps. I don't mind getting here. I obviously like Sears quite a bit more. AJ Smith-Shawver is not confirmed to get into the Atlanta rotation. Who's he replaced? Who was out of the? Oh, Strider. Strider went right back on the IL. It doesn't matter, because this is quite literally the most difficult 2-step that you could imagine. Well, maybe not, because Colorado does suck, but it's at Coors and home to the Dodgers. How many guys would you even use in a 2-step like this outside of aces?
I think just aces.
Aces only, right? Like, this is crazy. So, I mean, Strider himself, we would have obviously stuck with, but AJ Smith-Shawver, we can move on. Let's go to Tomoyuki Sugano with Baltimore. He's got a good ERA right now, 3.54. One of the few guys doing anything for them out of the starting rotation. It has been.
I was just about to say, like, does he know he's allowed to have a good, or he's not allowed to have a good ERA pitching for Baltimore right now? Like,
well, he's trying, because he has a 5.80 FIP. So he's like, I'm out there doing all I can to have a bad ERA, but he has a 3.54 despite his best efforts. 114 WHIP is pretty nice, but too many homers, way too many homers for Tomoyuki Sugano right now, and that's the problem. And now he's going to get the Yankees and Kansas City. He gets both at home. He's coming off back-to-back 7-inning outings, during which he gave up 2 homers in each, although only a total of 5 runs. I don't know what to make of this guy here. I wasn't interested in the draft season. The spring did nothing for me with Sugano. I just don't think there's enough Ks, and I think there's too many homers. But he doesn't walk guys. He has a pretty good whip. Are you finding any usefulness for Tomoyuki Sugano?
Not with the Yankees on the docket. I mean, his strikeout rate is so impressivly low. It's currently at 8% on the year, and it's a 2.89 K per 9. Like, it's just,
that's how
it's terrible. And like you said, like, the underlying numbers, the xERA is 6.12 right now. Like, it sounds like this is just, you're just like begging to get crushed in this one. I don't want to, like, this is one of those guys where, like, you're like, well, just like kind of ride it while the hot streak's going.
No.
If you use them for this 2-start, you're going to eat all of the lack of hot streak that is about to come. So,
and worth noting that KC sucks right now.
Yeah,
they look really bad. Can I pivot to them real quick? Do you see a turnaround here? Are they going to come out of this? Is this just a slow start, or was KC just, I don't want to say a fraud or anything like that, but are they just not as good as they were last year, and they're a team to pick on right now because they're 30th in offense against righties?
I think they got to be better than this. I look at that lineup,
but like tangibly so, where you're like back to being, because we were a little bit nervous of them last year. You did not always want to start guys against KC last year, and right now, I'm starting you for sure against KC.
That rotation is really good. I mean, like, Michael Lorenzen is your 5 with Lugo and Reagans and Waka and Bubic, like, and then I think
the pitching is why they're 12 and 14. If they had any offense, they might be like
Yeah, I think
20 and whatever that number is. I don't know. 26.
that
20 and
offense
6.
has got to be better.
It has to be, right?
Yeah, you gotta wonder how long until they bring up their top prospect.
Caglione.
Yeah, like I
Well,
think he's crushing it in the minors too. But
dude, outside of Witt and Michael Garcia, who has a positive OPS plus, the rest of the starting lineup: Sal Perez 81, Vinny P 60, Michael Massey 29. MJ Melendez got sent out with a 0 OPS plus. Kyle Isbell 69, not nice. Hunter Renfroe 35. And Jonathan India 66. I really liked India coming into the year. Thought he really addressed their OBP needs. He does have a 106-point split between his average and OBP. Problem is it's 200 and 306. They have to be better. They cannot be this bad. But if they are, they're going to have a bad season.
Yeah.
All right. So we're not starting Sugano anywhere. I would move off of him. I don't even think I'd have him in AL only. And I know that there's not much out there. I don't trust this at all. Let's go to Cincinnati. I mentioned Nick Martinez earlier. He's got a double home start, which is terrifying because he's kind of a half pitcher, road only type guy. He and Brady Singer both get St. Louis and Washington coming to visit them in Cincinnati. Let's start with Nick Martinez. You say you're a little bit skeptical of him, even as a Nick Martinez believer. Where do you stand currently with this two-step? Are you starting it anywhere?
Some 15s. Some 15s you're kind of like, if I've got to start a two-step unless it's against the Dodgers and at Colorado and things like that. And I'm not like St. Louis has been good offensively to start, but like I'm not necessarily running away from them with a pitcher that I trust. And while Martinez has kind of struggled, the underlying numbers are a little bit better than, not great, but a little bit better than the surface numbers show. So I wouldn't mind, or not necessarily wouldn't mind. I think I'm going to do it in a number of 15s, unless my team is stacked. And a few of the spots I do have, my team is stacked, so I don't have to use them if I don't want to.
Humble brag. I mean, not even humble brag. That was just a brag. No,
it's just a brag. Like I don't do humble brags. I'd have to be humble for that. So yeah, I think in 10s and 12s I'm probably not. I think I'm afraid enough of St. Louis's offense and Washington's offense to go. Especially in Cincinnati. If it was on the road, I'd probably be starting him for both of these. But
I think so too.
Because both are at home, I'm just not messing with Cincinnati and pretty confident offenses here.
Let's talk Brady Singer, another guy that you've been a fan of. You weren't as big this year going from KC to Cincinnati. I do understand some trepidation there, but he's held up there. In fact, out of his 5 starts, it's a tiny sample. I'm not saying it's going to hold all year. He's actually been better at home, and tangibly so. 3.31 ERA and a 104 WHIP in 3 starts at home for Singer. 4.09, 127 on the road. So he gets the double dip at home. I will point out 15-1 strikeout to walk ratio on the road suggests that maybe those surface numbers should be better. But anyway, he gets the same two-step, of course, St. Louis and Washington coming to visit. Have you changed your tune a little bit on Singer, who you were avoiding coming into the year after 5 starts with Cincinnati? He's 4-0, by the way, which is always nice to pile up a bunch of wins.
So like this feels like Brady Singer did last year in terms of like, oh look, he's throwing the slider more and he's getting some good swing and miss, and the underlying numbers are even better than the surface numbers. It currently is xERA is 2.97.
That's awesome on a 3.62 ERA.
Best strikeout rate of his career so far. The walk rate's up a little bit, not tremendously. We saw this exact same type of thing with Singer early on last year, and then he turned back into Brady Singer. Which is a guy that has good skills, but struggles repeating his mechanics, struggles with just massive cold streaks. I think you kind of have to ride it, especially in a 15-team league.
Right.
So I think I am starting him in 15-team leagues, and I'm taking him over his teammate Nick Martinez. But Singer is very much in the same vein of Andrew Heaney, a guy that I've loved for a really, really long time, that I have a lot of PTSD about because he's destroyed multiple teams of mine.
Right.
And I am waiting for the other shoe to drop at some point on Brady Singer. And so I think I'm using him. I'm starting him right now, but it's going to be a quick hook. I get like 2 bad starts in a row, and like that's it for me as Brady Singer.
Yeah, I do understand that because it can be a little bit scary to be pitching there in Cincinnati for a guy who, we've been around the block with Brady Singer quite a bit. So I do feel you on that. He gets at Houston the following week, which, is not a slam dunk use, but if he drops another 2 good starts here, all of a sudden I think Brady Singer becomes kind of an automatic in 15s for a little bit. I agree with you, though, that we're still taking it start to start. We're not just going to set it and forget it and never look back in on Brady Singer. Let's bring up Tanner Bibee. This is who I alluded to earlier as somebody who you would normally think wouldn't be on this episode, but 5.19 ERA, 146 WHIP. And the thing that's really getting me is the 18% K rate and 13% walk rate. Both rates pretty bad for Tanner Bibee. And I looked at it in comparison to last year's slow start. This is much worse because I had him on a main event team last year, and I remember him taking like a 5 ERA into May or even into like mid-May or whatever, and then finishing the season very strong and looking like the Tanner Bibee that I got at the draft table. This is not that right now. These skills are bad, and I'm curious if you've got any concerns about Tanner Bibee with a Minnesota and at Toronto 2-step on the docket here.
I definitely have concerns because, like you said, this has been kind of the worst stretch of his career. He looked much better in his last start, which is giving me some confidence that I should start Tanner Bibee, especially because the velocity was back up. The velocity had been down a good amount to start the season, and it was back up like I think 1.5 miles per hour.
And against the Yankees, I should note too, which is good matchup to rebound in.
Yeah, great matchup. Pitch pretty well. We still saw 3 walks, which is kind of the concerning part of. I mean, the homers are obviously a concerning part, but you kind of look at the game logs, and he gave up 4 against a really hot Angels team, and then gave up 3 homers at Baltimore, which is just weird.
Especially the way they're playing lately. Although I think they're actually doing all right versus right-handed pitchers, but not much is going well for Baltimore right now.
But the other 3 starts, he's got a total of 1 home run. So now 2 of those starts are against Kansas City have been struggling. So it's kind of been a weird game log, I think, a little bit. I think I'm rolling with him in 15s. I think I'm rolling him with him in 12s. In 10s, Tanner Bibee might need to go to your bench. It kind of really just depends on what your other options are.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see a lot of 10-team leagues going, or teams in 10-team leagues saying like, hey, I like Tanner Bibee. I drafted him high, but I'm looking at my rotation, and I'd much rather have this really good 1 start than a 2 start on a guy that has been struggling early on. So
I could see that too. If okay, how about this? Actually, is he a 2-start? No, he isn't. What about like Dustin May against Miami?
Yeah, I'm taking Dustin May
in a 10-teamer there. Yeah. Something like that I could see. I noticed you didn't say that you'd cut Bibee. Neither would I in any league. If you're benching him because you've got a depth of rotation that you can afford to do that, I'm okay with that.
Honestly, I think this is the time to buy low. Like I said, the velocity was back up. He looked better against a really good Yankees team in New York. So
I think it was in Cleveland.
Oh no, sorry, in Cleveland. Okay. Still though, like that,
he still gets full credit for that. That's great.
Wind tunnel out to right field. So I'm totally fine saying like, hey, I want to take a gamble here and go try to buy low on Tanner Bibee. So I'm starting him, I think, in all 12s and 15s and most 10s.
Yep, I think that's where I'm at with Tanner Bibee as well. Just wanted to do a check-in with him. Let's stay here in Cleveland with his teammate, Luis L. Ortiz. And in fact, I actually did not see how did he do against the Yankees?
I don't think it was great, but I'll double check here.
But
Allowed
he gets
4 runs on 5 hits, 5 walks over 4 1/3.
okay, so that's pretty Luis L. Ortiz.
8 strikeouts though.
You do like that. It's back-to-back 8 strikeout games and 10 before that. So the strikeouts have really surged with 26 in the last 3 outings after just 5 in his first 2 outings. Is that enough to reel you in for Luis L. Ortiz with the Minnesota and at Toronto in, say, 15s? I don't think we get beyond 15s here. I think we can laser focus there for Luis L. Ortiz. But where are you at? Is it Luis W. Ortiz for you this week?
No, I think he's still Luis L. Ortiz for me. I loved Ortiz when he was in Pittsburgh, and I really thought that at some point we were going to see the breakout. And it is cool to kind of see the strikeouts come up. It is the highest swing strike rate of pretty much of his career. But and like these matchups like don't scare you. The Blue Jays are actually like I didn't even realize how bad they were against right-handed pitching this year. So
your boy Santander looks terrible so far. I'm not worried about him yet.
I'm not worried about him either.
But he looks bad so far.
And then Minnesota, they haven't been good either. So
they really haven't.
Now, here's the thing. Neither of these teams like have massive strikeout rates or anything versus right-handed pitching, even though they're not hitting versus right-handed pitching. And what you're looking for from Ortiz is a bunch of strikeouts. And then hopefully he kind of just survives the outing. Because that's been what his season has been. It's like, hey, I'm getting strikeouts, but I'm also getting crushed because I walk way too many guys.
Right.
And these are two teams that don't really strike out that much. So I think I'm staying away from this outside of 15-team leagues where I don't have a better option. In 10s and 12s, I'm not like streaming him here.
Nope, I'm not streaming Luis L. Ortiz either in 10s and 12s. On 15s, in 15s, it's on the table, but yeah, I'm trying not to. I'm looking for reasons to not start Ortiz here because I am still nervous. I love the strikeouts that he's been showing, but beyond that, I can't really get too excited. Let's move to Germán Márquez, Atlanta and at San Francisco. Let's move to Bryse Wilson, Milwaukee and Houston. Okay, let's move to Reese Olson, unless you want to interrupt and say that you really love Márquez and Bryse Wilson. Reese Olson's one of those that this is borderline like a check-in type of thing. He's not as good as Tanner Bibee. I'm not going to say that. I love Reese Olson. It's a slam dunk for me. I'm starting him in 15s and 12s, and I might even consider him in 10s. But I'm a fanboy, not just because he's a Tiger, but I really like him. I was super impressed with his outing against San Diego. That's what I've been waiting for. He's now running a streak of 12 2/3 scoreless with 12 Ks against 3 walks. He only has allowed 1 homer this year. It was against the Dodgers. I'm very big on Olson. Is he somebody that you're worried about in 12s, or is he kind of an automatic start there in 12s or deeper for you with Reese Olson? Where do you stand on him after 5 starts this year?
I kind of stand where I did earlier on in the season, which is, hey, I think this guy is maybe he doesn't reach the heights. Reese Olson reaches the heights that we thought at one point he might get to. But this is actually a really competent, good innings eater type of starter that I love in 12 and 15-team leagues. I think I've never understood, like, there are some people in the industry like, hey, I think this guy's like an SP2. I don't see that, but I see a really competent.
I'm one of them. I'm people.
I know you are. But what I do see is a guy who can throw you a bunch of really good innings. Be like a Matt Cain type of guy.
What the hell was Matt Cain, but if not a number 2 at his peak? Didn't you just contradict yourself there?
I don't know that he was really.
He wasn't a fantasy number 2 at his peak.
Maybe for 1 year. I'm gonna look now.
I think you should look. I think there's more than 1 year there where I like that comp. I think that from a statistical standpoint, Reese Olson can be Matt Cain-y. Look at that
he probably was. Yeah, he probably was because he had so many sub 3 200 plus inning seasons. God, man, he was so good. Such an underrated career. I know he's not like a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but like a Hall of Very Gooder for sure for Matt Cain.
Absolutely,
and I think Reese Olson could be Obviously, nobody throws 220 innings every year
Right.
anymore.
Right.
But a guy who can throw 160, 170 innings with maybe not as good of ratios as Matt Cain, but pretty darn good ratios. You know, talking about a guy who I think can be like a 340, 350 ERA, get you some strikeouts, especially with the volume. I like Olson. There were a lot of people in my chats the last couple weeks with how much Olson had struggled. Like, hey, should I be dropping Olson? I was like, no. You know, he started versus the Dodgers. He really had, you know, kind of two bad starts against the Dodgers and then
And the
at
Dodgers
Minnesota.
the Dodgers one was like one bad inning. If you watch that one, it was really the fifth inning there. And you know, he has to pay for that. When I bring stuff up like that, it doesn't mean don't count it or it's fake or anything. It's like, but when it's an isolated struggle, to me, that's always better than somebody who gets beat up, you know, 3 out of the 5 innings that they face somebody. But he struggled at the very end there against the Dodgers in LA. That's understandable. Bounced back against the White Sox, struggled against Minnesota in Minnesota, which was a bummer because they stink so far this year. But again, it was the last inning where he gave up 3 runs.
And it's
then,
not like he gave up 8. Like he gave up 4, you know, in 4 and a
you
third.
can live with that.
That hurt that week, right? So if you're in a head-to-head league, you know, that would hurt. But if you cut off that Dodgers start, which you should be able to do because you shouldn't have started him in March in his first start against the Dodgers.
I agree with that even as a super fan of Reese Olson.
He has a 2.38 ERA on the season then.
Yeah.
Like with 3 wins in 4 games. Like I think Reese Olson is a pretty decent, like, or pretty like a top end SP4, bottom end SP3 that you will enjoy. I don't think you're going to look at him at the end of the season and go, oh, this guy won me my league. But to get a guy who can turn out probably 25, 26 starts with a mid-ish 3 ERA and you know, competent amount of strikeouts, like, I like Reese Olson.
Me too. Big fan, excited to see what he can do. And again, he gets, I didn't say his matchups, he gets at Houston and at the Angels. I don't have a problem with that. I'm definitely starting him. Jack Kochanowicz is probably competing with Sugano for strikeouts. He's at Seattle and home to Detroit. I actually don't know where his strikeout rate is this year. I am basing that joke off of last year. But
I don't think it's good either. But
yeah, any universe where you're considering Kochanowicz.
I mean, maybe in the deepest of 15-team leagues, you're looking at it. Maybe, yeah. Like I don't even know that you have to run that one out there at all. He says there's so little upside and such big downside. He's currently, his strikeout rate is currently at 11%, so not as bad as Sugano.
In fairness, yeah,
a 5.47 ERA, and the you know, ERA indicators are all in line, and a 1.48 WHIP. That's what really kills
brutal.
Kochanowicz is he not only is he not a very good strikeout guy or ERA guy, but he really absolutely crushes you in WHIP because he just allows so many damn hits. Like he throws everything in the zone. And to that point, I'm gonna. Oh, okay. He's no longer the number 1 starting pitcher in terms of zone contact allowed, but he's damn close.
Yeah, it wouldn't have surprised me if he was up there. Jack Kochanowicz, again, he just lives off of contact and getting it turned into outs, but that's just so dangerous.
This is a really interesting top 6 with 2 guys that you might go, oh, okay, yeah, that scares me a little bit.
Names.
Okay, so the first number 1 is Davis Martin.
Okay, right? Yeah, no surprise there.
Number 3 and number 4, no surprises, Sugano and Kochanowicz, right? Number 6, not really a surprise because of how he's pitched this year, and we just talked about him, Walker Buehler. The other 2 are a little concerning. One is my boy Jose Barrios. He's got a 92.6 zone contact right now.
It's been tough for him.
It has, but I mean, like, this is why I said, like, oh, Andres Jimenez is going to help out that pitching staff. Like the only reason, like, Barrios has survived, I think, is because that defense has improved behind him. The other is David Peterson.
Oh, wow.
And
he's been good.
He's been really good. I would be pretty petrified of him allowing that amount of contact, especially considering it's weird, considering his strikeout rate is a strikeout per inning right now. But yeah, that's going to scare the crap out of anyone.
Well, we're actually going to get to him very soon, so we'll dive deeper on David Peterson in a moment. We're not in on Kochanowicz, obviously. No. Let's talk Edward Cabrera. He goes to the Dodgers, which is pretty much disqualifying there. Gets the Athletics as well. Obviously been a prospect, for a long time with a lot of appeal. Still just 27 years old. Still has his believers. I can't get there. I don't think he's any different than he's ever been. Forget about the two-step because I don't think you're starting it with the Dodgers there. Do you have any hope from what you've seen 3 starts in for Edward Cabrera, or is this just a lost cause at this point? Does he need to go to the bullpen and finally fulfill his role as a competent reliever?
The stuffists out there are screaming at you right now.
I know.
Because he has made a pitch mix change and kind of revamped some pitches, and the stuff is the best of his career. If you watch him pitch, his stuff looks nasty right now.
I will grant that, but it's not yielding results. He's still walking the yard.
106 stuff plus right now. Problem is, location plus is 90.
There's those walks.
And then you add in the fact that this dude never stays healthy. I think you're right. And I mean, I've said this for a long time. I think he'd make a great closer. Like, just
feels
let
like
him play the ninth and be one of those closers that scares the crap out of you because he walks too many guys, but he will strike out, the side a lot of the times too.
Edward Cabrera could probably post a 35% strikeout rate as a reliever.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I don't know why well, no, I do know why.
No, we know why.
There's so much more value in a guy who can turn over.
And I actually give them credit for sticking with Cabrera. I'm roasting him here, but I give them credit for not immediately running to the bullpen with him. You're the Marlins. I know they've been okay so far this year, so I don't want to say you're not competing at all or whatever. They're 11 and 13. They're not. No, of course they're not. But I'm just saying, like, they had a playoff appearance recently. They're not horrendous this year record-wise. You do give a 27-year-old Cabrera some time because I don't know if you already looked at his player page. Do you know how many career innings Cabrera has?
It can't be that many.
It's not
because
it's 309 spread out over 5 years.
Because he's never had more than 100 innings in a season. So
and like you said, never healthy.
Yeah, injuries. He just can't stay healthy, and that's why it makes so much sense for them to say eventually we're going to put you in the bullpen.
Are you keeping him on your radar with this stuff improvement, though? Again, we're not starting the two-step this week. That's not even on the table anywhere. But are you keeping Edward Cabrera on your radar at all with the stuff improvements?
I mean, I think you have to in deeper leagues, but the hard part is he doesn't get to face his own team.
Right.
So there's never a Miami. There's never a Miami two-step on the docket. But there will be a White Sox, game
Pirates.
at some point.
Yeah.
The Pirates, the Rockies come to town, something like that, where I could see myself taking the gamble because the stuff is so good, especially if my ratios are already really good, which they are in a few leagues. And I know a lot of people, the pitching has just been so much better this year than the hitting. So maybe there are a lot of teams where you go, hey, like, I can risk this, but not for this two-step.
Yeah. Don't chase this week with Edward Cabrera. But yeah, that's fine. Keep him on your radar because things can change quickly. And it's probably only like a small tweak on the control there that could give him a modicum of fantasy relevance. I don't think we need to waste our time with Chris Paddack, but I will say that he has at Cleveland, at Boston. I think that's a skip. You can stop me if you need to. But let's otherwise go to the Mets, where I mentioned David Peterson, but also Griffin Canning. They both have a two-step, but it is different matchups because Canning gets Washington. Now, is that a wraparound or is that a makeup game? I actually don't know.
Let's see. The Angels...
No.
Sorry.
He's not in the Angels anymore.
Yeah, that's right. The Mets have a wraparound.
Okay, so they got a 4-gamer with Washington, where he'll
Mhm.
play them on Monday. Canning will, and then at St. Louis. So let's start with him, and then we'll go to David Peterson. Canning, he really started to get some believers late into draft season. I've always been a believer, mostly to my detriment. Let's be 100% honest here. The one thing I love, I mean, I like a lot of things about what he's doing so far, but the thing I love is only 2 home runs in 5 starts. That has been instrumental to Canning's early success. Are we buying it and giving him some run this week with the 2-step? Don't giggle like that. Canning is a Cy Young contender. I'm just kidding.
uh yes and no. There's definitely been a profile change here, so I think I need to do a deep dive here on Canning at some point. All of a sudden he's getting a crap ton of ground balls. He's highest ground ball rate of his career, and we're talking 53.4%. His highest previous was in 2023 at 42.7. So we're talking about an over 10% jump from his best season. That's not even last season, from his best season.
And that started in spring, by the way, with a
Yeah.
65% mark for Griffin Canning. So we had seen the profile change. I think that's why people started to buy in. I was just keeping my dumb blind faith from previous years, but then there were some tangible improvements that started to bring others on board with Griffin Canning.
So, and I'm kind of pulling him up on Savant real quick to kind of take a look. Like, is there a massive change in? Oh yeah. Okay, so he's throwing his slider over 10% more, and he kind of got rid of the cutter, and so maybe this is a kind of a new and improved Griffin Canning. I think the hard part is with this added ground ball rate, his whip, man, like he's never been a good whip guy to begin with.
No,
The
but it's
138
still
whip
bad.
is
Yeah.
kind of brutal, and we are seeing a decent strikeout rate, but not one that I'm like jumping for joy on. 20, 23, 24% this year. I'm definitely interested. But like I'm not ready to anoint Griffin Canning as an ace yet. The underlying numbers for the most part look pretty good, but he's also been pretty hittable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the walks, 10% walk rate is tough right now. We need to see him tighten that up. Only 1 walk last time out against Philly, which is nice, but that was his first start of the year without multiple walks.
Massive change in zone rate, right? Remember we talked about 1 to 2% in zone rate can be a big jump. He's gone from 48% to 52%, so that's a 4% jump in zone rate. And when you throw as much in the zone and also allow a lot of contact in the zone, which Griffin Canning does, that does set you up to kind of get BABIP to death. And so I do think there are going to be these games where like you're like, what the hell happened? I just looked at the box score, and Griffin Canning, like he threw like 4 1/3 and gave up 9 hits and 6 runs. Like what those days are going to happen.
And that's why the walks need to improve here to really start to fully trust Canning. I think I'm starting the 2-step here pretty easily in 15s, and it's very much in the cards for 12s. Probably still don't need 2 in 10s, but depending on where you are, I don't think it's off the board in 10s, but it really just depends, because you can really have a depth of rotation where you don't need to.
I think it really just depends. Like you said, depth of rotation. Like you may have, 6 other starters that you're going like, hey, I can start all these guys over Canning.
But there's some good elements here with Canning that we're keeping tabs on. What about Peterson? You talked about what was it that his zone contact is through the roof right now?
Yeah. He's allowing, I think, the second most zone contact in all of baseball.
And I want to say real quick, he trades the Washington start for Arizona coming to visit. And Arizona is still the top offense again this year. Remember, they were the highest run scored team last year. They have the top WRC plus so far against, actually that's against righties. I should check lefties. I'll do that in a moment. But David Peterson gets Arizona and then a trip to St. Louis. Where do we come out with this start? Because the numbers
they're actually 18th against left-handed pitching.
Okay, so that's quite a bit worse than where they are against righties. Does that give you some confidence for Peterson, even though we have this concern with the zone contact?
A little bit. He isn't walking, guys. He's doing the opposite of Canning in that regard. You know, 7.5% walk rate, which is the best of his career. Again, bad whip guy, 143 whip, because just he's allowing so much damn contact in the zone. His zone contact's up 2%, and he's just not getting like a ton of swing and miss with that. It's only an 8% swing and strike rate. So
that's terrible. That's worst of David Peterson's career. So there's something amiss here. You love the 3.29 ERA, but with a 1.43 whip, that tells you that ERA is not going to stick around.
No, he's going to get wrecked at some point. And I'm kind of going to look. His stuff plus is 91.
Is the location plus any good?
It's 101, so you know, not amazing, but not bad.
Barrage here with Peterson. Then this ERA.
This feels like the easiest sell high.
I think I'm passing on this for Peterson. I don't know that I'm cutting him. I will say, you know, our classic thing, if you're not starting in a two-step, should you have the guy rostered? I can see a world where you still roster Peterson in a 15.
Yeah.
But don't start him this week. I've got some nerves here. I like Canning quite a bit better than Peterson.
Yeah, this feels like you should be shopping David Peterson, like, you know,
for anything.
Yeah, like even as like a throw in on a deal, like like hey, I need a better second baseman. I'll trade you my second baseman and David Peterson for your second baseman. You know, like kind of thing. So like here,
Ginn or Peterson. Ginn at Texas at Miami again to remind people. Do you like him or Peterson right now?
Man, it's so hard. I think I'd probably still go Peterson, but I think I don't think that's a bad. Like I'm not putting that one on the board. That's for sure.
No, not a board bet there. You're not giving away a freebie right there. That's scary. Let's be careful here with Peterson and not go too crazy based on the ERA because I think it's a deceptive ERA.
He's allowing so much contact, just so much contact. That is frightening how much contact.
He's going to have to pay. The bill is going to come due.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk your boy, Andrew Heaney. You referenced him earlier. And I jumped on board when Pittsburgh signed him. And I'll freely admit that a big part of it was Miami was his opening start. So I was basing a lot of it on one start. I was like, I'll take the one start and I'll kind of go from there. But I also liked the fact that his biggest issue is home runs. And that's the thing that this new park of his in Pittsburgh, PNC, would help. And so far, that has come to fruition. He has a 0.3 homer 9, the best of his career. Now, that comes with a 4% homer to fly ball, which, hey, that ain't sticking. That's just not going to stick. That's really tough to manage. But there's an improved ground ball rate as well from 34 to 42% for Andrew Heaney. There are elements here that are legitimate. The strikeouts are up to 26. The walk rate is down to 5%, which is a career best and an improvement on last year's 6% mark, which was also really good. So I like what we're seeing from your boy Andrew Heaney here. I'm on board. Like I ended up holding him because I thought it might be a one and done. I was like, I'll take my Miami start. I'll reassess after that. I have not moved off of him, and I don't intend to for, you know, I don't even think the first bad start is going to push me off of Heaney. Now, this is a very difficult two-step. Both are at home, though. Cubs and Padres coming to visit. Where you at on Heaney, dog? I'm starting him in 15s. I'll say that right now.
I don't know how you don't start him. I mean, this is a litmus test for Andrew Heaney right here. Like, you've got two of the better offenses in all of baseball coming to your park. But at least it's in Pittsburgh where you are protected by that park a little bit. I want to buy in, man. I really do. You know how much
you're a longtime fan. Yeah, of course.
Even though it pisses me off, he's not on any of my teams this year. Like I want him to do well. Like always be a Heaney guy at heart. And so I would love to. And there is a pitch mix change here that you should be excited about. You know, we're seeing him throw that change up a lot more, and it's working. And throwing the slider a little bit less. I do worry, man. I really just worry that this is gonna blow up at some point. But I think this is one of those you got to just
be the
ride.
week, right?
It would be like, and
it's
where
really tough.
this isn't one of those weeks where it's like, oh well, he might get beat up by this team, but that team, like he should be okay again.
This is a double dip of heat for Heaney.
Yeah, this is a really, really scary two-step, but with the way Heaney is pitched, like I just don't know how you're not using him.
Yeah. Like I don't know, like again, if you have a team deep enough to where you don't have to start a Heaney two-step here at home, good for you. But I gotta run it.
This is a put in your lineup, close your eyes, click submit, and pray to whatever.
And check on Sunday.
Yeah, pray to whatever power you believe in. But this definitely has the feel of like, okay, this is regression week. That being said, like the profile looks really good, and this isn't like a David Peterson situation where you're going like, well, he's pitched really well, I got to use him. But you look under the hood and you go, oh no, he really hasn't pitched that well. He's just been really freaking lucky. Now Heaney has pitched really well, and there is a pitch exchange. I wonder what the stuff plus
it's 102.
107 on the fastball though, and 110 on the sinker.
And that's your foundation there, and that's probably helping him get those ground balls that we're seeing from Heaney, get the home run suppression. Like again, there's going to be regression
in a good park. I think you're rolling with it this week, but Heaney's always going to be one of those guys that while he's healthy, I'm kind of watching him pretty closely. Like just because he does have command problems. If that command, let's see, what was the control plus look like? 99. That's fine.
That's passable.
It's
nerve-wracking, but I'm going for it. I would even consider Heaney in a 12-teamer in the right situation, despite the difficulty of Chicago Cubs and the Padres coming to visit. Anything to Steven Matz right now. I guess he's being put into the rotation. He got to start a week or so ago, but then another bullpen appearance after that. So who's he filling in for then?
They're saying he's moving there on a should be a permanent basis, or a more permanent basis.
Is he kicking someone out, or are they going 6?
Because
they have 7 games. So even if they're going 6, it looks like they're going 6. Matz, Palante, Michaelis, Liberatore, Gray, and Fetty, six man. So he gets the bookends then at Cincinnati, home to the Mets. Matz is what is this? The Justin Mason freaking show? I guess in celebration of your 20 years. It's all these guys that you've loved in the past. Any love here for Matz?
He's got a 186 ERA. That's crazy.
Mostly in the bullpen, though.
Yeah. I think my big concern on Matz right now, at least, is how deep is he going to be able to go? And
he did go 5 against Houston in a good start, I should point out.
One of these starts is in Cincinnati, which is he hasn't given up a home run this year. So you're like, okay, well, maybe he won't, maybe he can survive. And
a little scary though.
He's a pretty decent ground ball guy for the most part. 45%, I think this year is his ground ball rate, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, 45%. So he's been pretty lucky though. It is a 237 BABIP. He isn't walking guys though.
That's been the key. 4% walk rate for Matz. But again, it's in the bullpen. I will underscore the great start against Houston, 5 innings, 2 hits, a run, 0 walks, 5 Ks, but it's only 1 start. This is scary. Like, here's the thing. If you start this and it blows up in your face, you know the deal. Like, you're coming in eyes wide open if you have to start Matz here.
Cincinnati hasn't been very good.
No, they haven't.
Generally speaking, but against lefties too. So 21st in WRC plus versus left-handed pitching this year. They do walk a fair amount, but they also strike out a fair amount. I think I might roll with this in 15s. I think he'll be one of the more picked up guys.
I think so too.
I assume that Steven Matz, I'm gonna double check like where
he gotta be crazy available.
Yeah, so
15s for Matz. That's the only place we're considering Matz, right? 15s, you're not going beyond 15s.
Yeah. He's 0% rostered in TGFBI, and he's only 35% rostered in the main event. So I think that this is an interesting 2-start stream. If you're really looking for wins, you may want to go a different direction, just because I don't know how deep he's going to go. He has not been starting all year. And so I don't know if he'll go deep enough to win this game or these games, but I think Matz could be a good ratio guy for the week if that's what you're looking for.
I think that's fair. But again, if he gets crushed, you knew the deal coming in, so you shouldn't be blindsided here. You know you're taking a big risk. Taj Bradley, kind of a check-in with him. This guy, super talented. I really like him. I've talked about how I was kind of really back and forth on these Tampa Bay guys with the park that they were going to play in this year. It had nothing to do with talent. I love the talent of the whole group, really, outside of Zach Littell. And I had my concerns with Shane Boss too. I don't want to pretend retroactively pretend I was super in on him. He's looked great so far. But Bradley's got a 5.08 ERA and a 1.38 WHIP, and it isn't just the home park. In fact, he's been a bit better at home. Outside of the Yankees start, he had 2 good starts at home, and then his 2 road starts have been pretty bleh. At Texas, 5 innings, 4 runs. At Arizona, 6 innings, 3 runs, but only 3 Ks. Like, you take the baseline quality start, but only 3 Ks is a little weird. So 5 starts in, mostly kind of a check. I think you're starting Bradley in 15s and 12s, and you're at least keeping him on your roster in 10s. Kansas City coming to visit him, and then a trip to the Yankees. Where do you currently stand with Taj Bradley?
I'm definitely not starting this week. I mean, maybe in 15 you're getting there.
Only maybe?
You got to go to New York, and then Kansas City is bad, but they're coming to
that's true.
Tampa, which is just a terrifying place to pitch right now.
It really is.
And he's a guy who gives up, a fair amount of fly balls. He's allowing the most amount of zone contact he has his entire career. His O swing is minuscule right now. It's 22% O swing.
Maybe that explains the 6 total Ks in his last 2 starts after 21 in his first 3.
Which is really interesting. I wonder if there's been now I got to look him up on Small too. I got to see if there's been a pitch mix change there, because he's getting no swings outside of the zone, which to me seems really weird for a guy like Bradley.
Right.
He was like 32% last year in O swing. So let's see. It's just a little bit less 4-seamer usage, a little bit more split, but nothing that's like really stands out as massively changed in terms of the pitch mix usage.
Could just be a couple bumpy starts against 2 really good teams too. It was the Yankees at home and then at Arizona. I'm not going to crush somebody for giving up 9 runs in 11 1/3 against those 2 teams with only 6 Ks, but also 6 walks. So I don't know. I love Bradley. I love the talent, root for him hard, but I do have a bit of trepidation this week. I think I'm still going to hold my nose and run it in 15s. I know that that's tough going to the Yankees, but I think I'm going to run him Taj Bradley in 15s.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people will too.
Do you agree with those people? You seem a little skeptical.
I would hope I have better options, but 15-team leagues, you may not. I've got a few 15-team leagues where I've got George Kirby on my reserve list, and I've got Giolito on my reserve list, and maybe I lost somebody, and maybe you lost to Spencer Strider or someone. Hopefully you didn't draft Strider and Kirby together. That would be a bad process. Maybe you lost somebody else, right? So you may not have the other options. You may have to roll with Taj Bradley. But if you have other options, I'd probably go with him.
Okay. I think that's fair to maybe be looking elsewhere. I'm certainly not cutting him anywhere though. I want to sit tight here and kind of see where things go.
I think Bradley for me this week kind of falls in one of the middle options of the guys we've talked about. I'm definitely starting him over Sugano. I'm starting over Kochanowicz.
Right.
But I think it's a really good question. Would you rather start Taj Bradley or Luis L. Ortiz?
That's the exact comparison I was going to do. And it's not a slam dunk for Bradley the way it should be. So I hear you on that for sure.
And I think Charlotte just told you
yes
that she wants to start Luisel Ortiz over
that was ringing the bell there for Luisel Ortiz. Patrick Corbin, wow, just again, Justin guys all over the place. Again, I don't think we're starting him. Obviously, you can tell me if different. He does have a 3.77 ERA in his 3 starts, but it comes with a 1.54 WHIP. There's no universe where you're starting Corbin, right?
No.
Okay, just making sure you weren't going to like chase wins or try to convince us that maybe we want to start him. What about Bowden Francis? He gets a home 2-step. Boston and Cleveland. Remember, he was the BABIP god last year, running that very minuscule BABIP, and that was kind of it. And you know, I point this out a lot. I'm never one to just say BABIP and move on. But that's what it was last year. It was a 211 BABIP that sustained his success. It's at 243 this year, so he's been able to still kind of maintain a really positive BABIP. And again, there's still nothing else. 12% strikeout minus. Bowden Francis terrifies me. I don't want to start him. Do you have to if you're in a 15 team with his 358 and 119 WHIP, though?
I mean, you don't have to.
You don't have to do anything.
No.
But should you? Are you? Will you? Can you? Did you?
Freak, Boston scares me.
Right, man.
Cleveland doesn't scare me necessarily, but Boston definitely does. I think in a 15 team, it's going to be hard to find better options, to be honest.
I know.
I think if you're in a 15 team league, if you're in a 10 or a 12, I think I'm trying to avoid this.
Bradley or Bowden?
Oh, Bowden. I don't think that.
Oh,
yeah. I think.
Man, I'm really scared of Bowden Francis because I think it's much closer than you do on that one.
Maybe
and I understand.
This one.
Yeah, let's. I'm fine with that. We can board bet that. How do we want to do it? Like DraftKings points or something. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to assess like the roto value of 2 isolated starts. And the DraftKings points are on their Baseball Reference.
Oh yeah, we could do DraftKings points
or FanDuel if you prefer that site. But those are in the game logs on Baseball Reference, so it would be easy to reference that.
All right. Yeah.
All right, I'll take Taj, you take Bowden. All right. Let's finish up with Trevor Williams, the Mets and at Cincinnati for Trevor Williams. We talked about this before. He was in the midst of a career year last year, 13 starts of really good work, 2.03 ERA, 104 WHIP. It was not going to hold, but I don't want to pretend that there was nothing good going on. I definitely think he was over his skis, and if the season had played out where he got 13 more starts, I think things would have come back to earth. I don't want to say super sharply, but like, again, it wasn't all fully earned for Trevor Williams, but he's come back this year from injury. He's got a 5.11 ERA and 158 WHIP, which certainly lends credence to the fact that maybe last year was a bit over his skis. Anything here, though, he's always been kind of a standard streamer. Anywhere that you're going with Trevor Williams, again, Mets coming to visit him and then a trip to Cincinnati.
No, I don't think I want to mess with this one. Cincinnati hasn't played well, but it's in Cincinnati, which scares me. God, the underlying numbers are actually somewhat decent for him. And the Mets, I think the Mets are scary enough. He just lost so much damn contact. It's a 90% zone contact.
And didn't keep last year's strikeout gains. He had a 23% K rate, did Trevor Williams. It's back down to 19%. I don't know. This is one of those where if you do start it and it blows up in your face, you're like, yeah, what the hell was I thinking?
It's a 94 stuff plus.
Yikes.
Like that is, let's see, that is, I think, tied for 20th in baseball right now. 20th worst in baseball.
Yeah, 20th worst there for Trevor Williams. There's just not enough juice to squeeze here, too, because while I do like the Nats, they're not some great team to chase for wins, right? They're kind of an interesting upstart team. I just don't think there's enough to get here out of a Trevor Williams start, so I really want to be careful with him. Okay, I think that'll wrap us up then here with the 2-start episode. What do you got planned for the weekend? You and Jason getting together on Sunday?
Yeah, we should be getting together on Sunday and then, just, putzing around the house, watching the NFL draft. I did not get drafted. again for
Unbelievable.
the
Neither you
18th
nor
year,
Shedeur Sanders got drafted
18th
last
year in a
year.
row not getting drafted in the NFL draft. So maybe we'll see a late pick or something like
What'd
that.
you think of Sanders not going? Dion's kid, obviously had a lot of hype, but there were people that called this. It wasn't that surprising that he wouldn't go in the first round. But quarterbacks, crazy things happen with quarterbacks. We've seen it a million times. I could list off tons of examples. But he didn't go on the first day there. Do you think that's a miss? Is somebody going to find a gem, or does he belong, on a second day? Because he's gonna go today, right? In the second or third round.
Okay. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he's the first pick of
Me
the
neither.
round. Cleveland has the first pick, and Kevin Stefanski.
Good trade by them. Yesterday.
Yeah, amazing trade by them. Also, who was it that traded with Atlanta? Unreal. Oh, it was Houston.
Yeah.
Get a first round pick next year on top of getting a second round pick this year. So but here's the thing, and I know so there's gonna be some baseball people who are like, I hate football, why are you talking about this?
It's at the very end. They can turn it off if they want.
Cut it off, right?
We're just doing a little football talk here because the draft is going on and we're football nerds too.
Shedeur Sanders does not have amazing physical gifts. He's not fast or mobile in the pocket. He doesn't have an extremely strong arm, but what he could be is just a really, really efficient pocket passer.
Mm-hmm.
And if he ends up in the right place, so this is like one of those where it's like, obviously you're bummed for him, like that, like he at one point was rumored to be the first overall pick,
right,
and now he's not even taken in the first round. But it's actually better for him as long as he ends up in the right place. So a place like Cleveland would be really, really good because Kevin Stefanski was, Kirk Cousins' coach that made Kirk Cousins good, or helped him, stay good in Minnesota. I think Cleveland would be a really good landing spot for him. Whereas, like, there are a lot of people like, oh, the Giants are trading up, they're going again. Like, I think that's a really terrible spot because he does not have a big arm.
They got Jackson Dart too, so they're out of the quarterback market now.
But when they traded up, I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is where Shedeur goes."
You thought that? Yeah, I agree that wouldn't have been a good spot for him.
I don't think that would have been a good spot. So
what's interesting for Cleveland is they could actually use the fourth pick of the second round to get him, although they do risk somebody trading up. But,
I think that's what would happen. I mean, I think you'd see. Well, here's the thing: one of the teams that was really closely tied to Shedeur towards the end of draft season was Pittsburgh. They don't have a second round because they traded for DK Metcalf, so they can't trade up
because Houston and Tennessee pick second and third in the second round.
They're
not taking him.
Neither of them are taking him. So you could see maybe New Orleans try to trade up into that spot.
Yeah, they have the eighth pick of the second. They can do something. I think if you like him, if you're Cleveland and you like him, just take him with the first pick. I don't think you want to get cute and push it to the fourth pick of the second round there.
Yeah, I agree.
But I love following the draft. Obviously, the Lions and Commanders, both of our teams played well. Your team beat mine in the playoffs. It was so
weird. It was for me because
it was a late pick.
I'm not used to picking so late. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of boring. We haven't picked yet. It's like 3 hours and like
a couple years for the Lions like this too. And I'm like, wait a minute, we have a what pick? It starts with a 2 and it's a double-digit pick. This is crazy. Yeah. But I'm very excited.
I can't remember.
It's been a minute. RG3.
No, even then they were like 25, 26. Like it was 29th. It's been a really, really long time since
it's been quite some time.
So this is I love the NFL draft. I'm not as in tune with it as I used to be. I used to be one of those people that would never miss a pick.
Same.
But now
I would know the guys going on the third day and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'd have like pages of information printed out where I could like reference stuff and binders, and now it's just like I just enjoy it, and I realize like, hey, like no one knows what they're talking about. Like everybody's like, oh, this guy's
that is true.
Like nobody really knows, and football is just turns over so fast. Like
I do trust the experts though, and I like reading, like reading the grades and all that sort of stuff. And like I said, I trust Brad Holmes, the leader of the Lions, implicitly. Whatever he does, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a good pick, just because he's had such a good record so far.
One of the cool things about being in the fantasy industry has been like the amount of people I have, kind of started following on Twitter, and they started following me, and like that are, Thor Nystrom, like dude really knows his college. You know, Scott Bogman, our friend, like
Yep.
over at ITL, you know, big college football guy, really knows this stuff. And so like getting to follow some of the guys that maybe other people wouldn't necessarily be following because they don't have like these huge, massive followings, but are really, really smart. It's really cool. So
there's some really good, knowledgeable people out there. Football, obviously, even more saturated than baseball, but there's tons of great people out there. All right. Well, have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday or Tuesday. I know we've been kind of in between on that one, but you'll get an early week episode. It'll just depend on our Monday schedules, as both of us can tend to get busy there. So it might be Tuesday if you don't get the Monday app. Otherwise, catch Justin with Jason on Sunday, and I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.